Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Cúilín Media. It is the weekend preview show. Football League, Hurling League, Ladies Football League action to discuss. I'm joined by Matthew Hurley, the Gaelic Statsman himself. We will have Seamus Brady joining us a little bit later on, I believe. No Liam White today, but it is just myself and Matthew, at least for now anyway, holding the fort and everything else. So, Matthew, I suppose no football this weekend. I mean, there is one game in Division 4 in terms of Waterford and Longford. That game obviously got postponed a couple of weeks ago due to the bad weather. But yeah, main focus on hurling and ladies football this weekend.
Yeah, it's an exciting weekend in many ways. Ladies football, obviously, the leagues are starting to take shape in fairness with round 3 and stuff like that. College competitions really taking a hold as well. We know the Fitzgibbon finalist. There's a Sigurdsson Cup semi-final happening as we speak on this podcast here between UCC and University of Galway. So should be a good game there. Obviously UL and Queens are playing tomorrow, so that should be a good game. And obviously the hurling is the big story this weekend. Obviously there are some interesting games, no more so than the Cork and Tipperary game. Before anybody asks in the comments, I'm not going to the game, obviously. Well, it's because I actually have a family wedding on Saturday. So unfortunately, I can't make it to the park on a Saturday evening if there was any tickets available anyway. But yeah, it should be an absolutely brilliant game. What I'm hearing from the Irish Examiner, the Echo, Southern Star, and all these outlets is that the stands are actually sold out. The Blackrock End is sold out. So only the City End Terrace is available in terms of getting a place in the ground. So we are well on course for a league record in terms of attendance. And to be honest, 2 All-Ireland finalists, the story behind it, you couldn't really have expected anything else, really. And I'm just hoping there'll be good weather on Saturday because, like, the people that were unlucky to get the terrace tickets, hopefully they won't get drenched in the rain. But look, that's for another day. But look, looking forward to the weekend's action.
Absolutely, and plenty of comments flying in there as well, lads. So cheers anyone who's tuning in, the likes of Ryan, Peter, leading the charge there in terms of the comments. If you could hit the like button and subscribe as well, share this out to as many people as possible if you could. Ryan says here, well, lads, hoping for a good weekend of action. Yeah, absolutely. There's some big games. Peter says, hey lads, football break, but they have served up some cracking hurling contests. Peter does say, Aaron, Seamus, what did you make of Ger Brennan's post-match commentary last weekend? They got some dissection during the week. Panel stands at 50 and will be cut down this weekend. Maybe mentioning that briefly, I think, look, Ger Brennan was right to extend the panel and try out as many players as possible, because we need new players, we need new bodies. I know he has been talking about potentially cutting some of the older players. For me, I felt that was more like a kick up the backside for some of the older players in terms of, like, get your act together here. You've got some young players who've come in, like Luke Bretnock and Ethan Dunn and a few others who've looked really, really impressive, whereas some of the older players probably haven't. So, but look, we'll see what happens, obviously, and look, we will discuss that when it comes around to the football in next week. But look, we'll crack into the first game, and you mentioned there, Matthew, there really is no better place to start. Cork versus Tipperary, Saturday night, Páirc Uí Chaoimh, under the lights, repeat of the All-Ireland final from last year. The question I'll pose to you first of all, like, there is huge amount of anticipation and everything else into this game. Like, there's always been a rivalry between Cork and Tipperary, but I feel like there's been other rivalries that have taken more centre stage. Like, I feel like Cork have probably maybe felt more of a rivalry a little bit with Clare and Limerick maybe in recent seasons, and maybe vice versa, Limerick and Clare. Tipperary obviously haven't been at the forefront since 2019, and that season Cork, we're nowhere to be seen as well. So in terms of a rivalry, is Cork Tipperary now the biggest rivalry in hurling?
I think it might be. Well, Cork and Limerick might have something to say about that, but in fairness, for Cork and Tips rivalry, it's one rivalry where, like, you see in football, you have a lot of supporters and maybe bantering each other, and it gets a bit ugly at times between Armagh and Tyrone, between Dublin and Kerry, between Cork and Kerry, and things like that. With this Cork and Tipperary rivalry, what I find is the fans respect each other more than anything. I actually think so. Look, Cork fans respect Tipperary hurling for what they've achieved in terms of winning their All-Irelands. Obviously, Tip, vice versa with Cork as well. So we do have respect for each other, in fairness. Obviously, the All-Ireland final, it was a bitter pill to swallow in many ways from a Cork point of view, scoring 2 points in the second half, we have only ourselves to blame, obviously. And Tip really taking a stranglehold in that second half performance, and they were absolutely superb in that game. But yeah, like the storyline behind this, obviously, it's going to be a league record in terms of attendance. There was a sending off in the last 2 games. I was chatting to one fella actually where I work over West along in West Cork, and he was saying that there will not be 30 men on the field by the 70th minute. That was his prediction over the weekend. And look, I think I wouldn't blame him in saying that, because when you look at the last 2 fixtures between the 2 counties, Darren McCarthy got a red card in the Munster Championship game, and obviously in the All-Irelands it was Owen Downey that received his marching orders. So, and considering Cork have more of this, I would say tough tackling approach as seen in the Galway game last week. A lot of people might have complained about it. A lot of people might have said Cork turned the corner. Look, it's good and bad in many ways, but I think this aggressive approach might lead to a red card this weekend. It could be for Cork, it could be for Tip. It's going to be very interesting to see that kind of element. And it'll be interesting to see actually from the throwing what happens, because I remember actually I was just scrolling through games over the past week or so, and look at Limerick and Tip. And Tip, obviously, that was the start of their All-Ireland journey. And the Tip and Limerick players actually were in a full-out brawl before the ball was even thrown in. And it was the same in the Cork and Tip game, and obviously that's why Darren McCarthy got the red as well. I wouldn't be shocked if there is a bit of tussling before throwing. I really wouldn't. And look, it's healthy, it's a rivalry, and it'll get the crowd moving. I think it'll be an absolutely brilliant game on Saturday evening. It's great entertainment. I know the Six Nations is here this weekend, but I think this is what Gaelic Games needs. A game like this, a storyline like this, and I think it's going to be an absolute cracker on Saturday evening. I think Tip are in a good place, and Cork are in a good place as well. For a league game, I know it's February, Aaron, but I'm really looking forward to this clash. It should be absolutely brilliant.
Absolutely, yeah, it definitely should be, and especially after everything that went into that All-Ireland final and everything else. Peter says, I can imagine Ben O'Connor sharpening the knives in the team meetings this week. And Peter also says Cork in the full cauldron of the park should be a grain of rice for the Rebels. And Ryan also says home advantage could be key. Do you think, like, especially with everything that happened, obviously in that All-Ireland final and everything else, and I suppose that I don't want to bring you too far back to it, Matthew, but obviously the collapse and everything else in the second half, like, do you think Cork, like, because we saw even with Donegal, Kerry, and even Cúilín, the football genius, made the good points on the show on Sunday in terms of when there is a repeat of the All-Ireland final in the league, it's usually the team who actually loses the All-Ireland final who comes out and wins the league meeting because they've so much to prove. Would you say that's kind of something similar with Cork?
And I suppose not just the football final in Donegal against Kerry. Obviously, we had Meath against Dublin, the bank holiday in the LGFA too. So there is that kind of vengeance for the All-Ireland losers, and especially the story behind Cork's kind of collapse in the final. And obviously, there was the rumours and stuff like that, which I hope has been put to bed now that those were rubbish. Just put them to bed, and that let that be the end of it. But how the collapse happened in the second half, because only scoring 2 points, the way we were so predictable in putting the ball up down the flank, Tipperary were just cleaning us up. Obviously with the sweeper system, Ronan Maher and Brian O'Mara were absolutely having a field day for Tipperary that day. So it hurts. It hurts from a Cork point of view. And Ben O'Connor I know Ben O'Connor wasn't the manager at the time, it was Pat Ryan, of course, but Ben will feel a sense of hurt as well, because what I've noticed about Ben, he is Cork hurling through and through. Like, I think he'd defend these players to the mill. I think he's a guy that will take no crap. I don't think he's a guy that will, bow down to any challenge. Like, he made an interview to the media a few weeks ago saying that doesn't matter if the game is on Astro, doesn't matter if it's a friendly, doesn't matter if it's a winter game after Christmas. Every game he wants to win. That's Ben O'Connor's mantra. That's his attitude. He wants to win every game. And I think, honestly, they would. I know Ben wouldn't have said this in the media, and I don't think he'd want to say it either, just to give stuff away or whatever. But I think he would have earmarked this game. He would have crossed it off in the calendar, and he would have said, this is the game we need to target because of what happened in July. And because of the way, like, a lot of talk was about Tipperary as well and how they recovered from maybe an off season the year previous, and the fact that Cork underperformed in the final. I think Cork have a lot to prove in this game. Do Tip have a lot to prove? I'm not sure. It'll be interesting to see the two lineups as well. Obviously, Cork might go strong. They have gone strong over the last couple of games. Tipperary played Jason Ford against Offaly. They played Darren McCarthy the first day. Of course, Darren McCarthy played in the Fitzgibbon during the week for UL. So will he be having another game? I'm not sure. Well, the thing is, the Fitzgibbon final is actually Friday week. So he might even play Darren McCarthy. Oisin O'Donoghue the same. So it's going to be very interesting to see the team lineups from a Tipperary point of view and a Cork point of view too. And as I said, just the aggression as well. Given what happened in July, I think Cork, there's a case to be said that Cork might be more up for it. But Tipperary will be up for it as well. They'd want to prove that they were worthy All-Ireland champions. I'm sure people realise that, but they'd want to prove that in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, going down to Cork, going down to the Cauldron, as the comments suggested there, and showing why they're All-Ireland champions. So it's going to be interesting on so many levels in terms of this as well. And obviously, there are some key elements. Obviously, who will take the frees for Cork? Cork have taken 11 frees in the first two games. Alan Connolly's taken 8 of them, but he's only scored 4. I think that's kind of a concern. Obviously, these early days, and I have to stress that. But without Hoggy in the team, you need a consistent free taker. And I thought, honestly, it would be Darragh Fitzgibbon this year. Alan Connolly's taken up the mantra. Fair play to him, but he needs to improve on his free taking if Cork are to go the full way and win the All-Ireland. The Tip have a settled free taker, whether it's Jason Ford, whether it's Darragh McCarthy, they're settled. Like, they know who's taking the frees. From a Cork point of view, there's the unknown factor, and a bit of maybe a concern for Cork as well. The turnovers, like against Waterford were very, very close. I think they were only 2 turnovers off, and Waterford got hammered in that game. Obviously, the first day out. Galway had way more turnovers than Cork. I think they had 9 more turnovers in the second round of games, and I think that's quite a concerning thing from a Cork point of view. Obviously, from a Tipperary standpoint, against Galway performed. We have to stress Galway performed very well in the first 2 games, and they provided big tests to Cork and Tipperary, so that has to be taken into account too. But Tipperary didn't have a test in the second game against Offaly, so how will they approach this game? It's going to be very, very interesting to see. So yeah, it's a lot of angles to this, a lot of storylines, and it should be a good watch. And yeah, I'd be very interested to see the Cork aggression, the Cork free taker, and above all else as well, the Cork turnover rate, because it wasn't great in the first 2 games. Will it improve for this game? We'll have to see.
Yeah, it is interesting, like especially when you do get 2 teams who play each other so early on in the league stage. Like you can see, like even with Donegal Kerry, you did see a little bit of both teams kind of holding themselves back a little bit and not going full throttle, not want to give away too much as well, and not want to kind of show their hands. So there might be an element of that as well this coming Saturday. But in terms of a prediction, what are you thinking then? Are you going to back the Rebels?
Well, I haven't backed the Rebel. I didn't back them last week, obviously, against Galway, because I thought Galway would win the game, and so it was very close. Like, Galway performed very well. I think just with the revenge on their minds, because I think they probably need to win this more, I'm going to say Cork to edge this one by about 2-3 points, but it'll be very, very tight to call. But I hope both sides put out their first teams, and we'll have to see if they can win this game, but I'm going to go for Cork.
Absolutely, yeah. Do you know what? I think I'll go for Cork as well. I think I'll go with a 5-point win. I do agree with you as well. I think they've so much to right that was wrong from that, from that summer defeat in the All-Ireland final, whereas Tipperary probably don't have as much to prove. And I think as well, Cork's depth in terms of their squad. Even you could argue in terms of when it comes to summertime, who's the better team, but I do think Cork probably have a bit more depth, especially at this time of the year as well. In terms of rotation, Denise says here, or Dennis says, great podcast, lads. Yeah, thanks very much, Dennis. Peter says, Galway, in fairness, threw everything at Cork and Tip. On Clitter here, tuning in, says, well, lads, sorry I can't be with you, buzzing for this game, because remember the final, Cork had hammered Tip, and I'm going to shade it to Cork. Yeah, it seems like most people are shading it towards Cork, and me and Matthew both agree with you there. Limerick Kilkenny taking place in the Gaelic Ground Sunday, 3:45. this is an interesting one, really, because like I was expecting Limerick at the start of the league to come out all guns blazing, a bit like Cork, to be honest with you, when they played Waterford, because of how last season ended, like losing to Dublin. They've obviously shuffled the backroom team once again, like with Caroline Currid coming in and a few others, coming back into the squad, or back into the kind of backroom team. And then on the opening day versus Waterford, look, obviously Waterford had so much to prove, and fair play to Waterford. Like, it was a top class performance from their perspective, and take nothing away from them. But there's a bit of pressure on Limerick and John Coyley, is there? Because, you know, they don't seem to be getting much right all of a sudden, when for so long they were getting so much right.
And it was striking, maybe, John Coyley's post-match interview afterwards, saying that they were outfought. That was the quote going on around during the week. And to be honest, I thought they were outfought against Dublin as well when they all went out of the championship. Look, I was at that game in Croke Park, and I've never seen a Limerick team so... Dublin deserved a win, no doubt about it, that day, but I never seen a Limerick team so slow to the first ball. I never seen a Limerick team that had a touch so off. I never seen a Limerick team that were just flat on their feet. And I just wonder, has time caught up with them? It might be, I might be way off on this now, but I just wonder, has time caught up with this Limerick team, considering what happened last year, and considering what happened in the Waterford game, and considering John Coyley's comments. Obviously, there are other players there as well. Adam English, he's injured for this game. He didn't play for UL at the Fitzgibbon Cup, which is a massive blow to them. I think he was the guy that was making the tick against Dublin. I think he was the best player on the pitch from a Limerick point of view by a mile against the Dubs last year. Shane O'Brien, I don't know what's his story. He didn't play for Mary I during the week in the Fitzgibbon Cup. Does he have an injury? If he does, that's another concern from a Limerick point of view. Obviously, Aidan O'Connor, who did well enough for UL during the week, will he get a little bit of game time during the weekend? It'll be very interesting to see. Garrett Haggerty there as well. So yeah, it's a lot of moving parts from a Limerick point of view. But Kilkenny are nearly the same. Are they in transition? Because obviously Hugh Lawler has gone abroad, Billy Ryan's gone abroad. They really aged Offaly. When you look at the way Tipperary hammers that Offaly team in Tullamore, it was a bit of a poor showing from a Kilkenny point of view on the first day out. So I think both sides have a point to prove in this one. Probably more so Limerick, considering they lost the first game. So it's going to be an interesting game to see. But I wonder, have this Limerick team lost their edge? Like, I know John Coyley mentioned that they were outfought, and do those comments have a bit of a resemblance to them? Look, Limerick players have to respond to that this weekend. They really do. But it's going to be very interesting to see how that response all goes down.
Yeah, and I suppose for Kilkenny, it's kind of hard to judge where they're at going into this, because on the opening day versus Offaly, you know, like they weren't absolutely brilliant. You know, it wasn't kind of vintage Kilkenny, you would say. Like they probably slogged their way through Offaly a little bit, and then obviously weren't playing last week as well. So they're kind of a hard one to judge. So where do you think they're at going into this?
It is a very hard one to judge, and obviously they only slightly got through that Offaly game at home as well in Nolan Park, which was quite concerning. So yeah, it's very, very hard to know where they're at. Obviously, I'd imagine TJ is still going to take a break. It's going to be very hard to see what Kilkenny team will actually turn up in this game, and what players they will show at this juncture as well. Do they care much about the league? But the thing is, like, it's the same as Kerry maybe in the football to a certain extent, that Kilkenny are not going to get as big a test in Leinster as, say, Tipperary, Cork, Limerick are, and Munster and Clare are going to get in Munster. So it's just puzzling to see. I know Kilkenny have had players move abroad or whatever, but it's puzzling to see why they can't go at the league rather than like other Munster teams. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Kilkenny approach this game. Judging by what they've done against Offaly in the first round, I don't think they're going to approach this with I suppose a vengeance. The Cork and Tipperary are going to go gung ho, I'd imagine, on Saturday. I don't think these two are quite at it just yet. So this again, Aaron, it could be the game to kickstart both sides' seasons. So yeah, it's going to be interesting enough to see. But yeah, it's hard enough to judge Kilkenny at this early stage, especially with the two players gone, and obviously TJ taking a break.
Yeah, like in terms of a prediction, I'll go first on this one. I'm actually going to go for a draw here, to be honest with you, because I think there will be a response from Limerick. I think there has to be honest. I feel like there's almost maybe not the same level of pressure on them as there was with Waterford last week. But I think if they were to lose this, considering most people like that I've seen and listened to, and obviously on our own show as well, have backed Limerick to win this league, and to lose the opening 2 games, I think you'd have to say they can turn it around in terms of winning it. But and look, I don't think they'll get relegated or anything like that, but they're up against it all of a sudden. And at the same time, I do expect Kilkenny to give a good showing as well. So I'm going to go for a draw. But what are you thinking?
I'm probably going to edge the Limerick, because I think the comments that John Cúilín made were damning, I suppose, to the Limerick players, and I think they'd want a response after those as well. I see the tweet earlier from Conor McKenna. I don't know if this accurate or not. It looks false, to be honest, but I don't know if it's true. If it is true, it's worrying from a Limerick point of view. They've won 4 out of their last 14 competitive games. Apparently, that's according to Conor McKenna. I'm not sure is that true. Maybe somebody in the comments might elaborate on that, but yeah, it's if that is the stat indeed, that's concerning from a Limerick point of view. I think they'd want to change that this weekend sooner rather than later, because if the negativity keeps on rolling, then what Limerick team will show up in the championship? So I think they need to get off the mark, and they need to get off the mark right now. And I think they will this weekend. I think Limerick will win this by about 4 points.
Interesting stuff, yeah. Peter says here Limerick by 2, and Ryan disagrees. Kilkenny by 2. Peter says predicting a poor game. Yeah, like I've got a feeling it might be a bit of a slog as well, to be honest with you. Especially with it does feel like probably matters more to Limerick at this stage. I think Kilkenny could lose, not that they would want to lose this game, but I think they could lose this game at the Gaelic grounds, and it wouldn't be it wouldn't be a big deal necessarily for Kilkenny. But if Limerick were to lose, I do think the jury would be out on them a little bit. You've got Waterford versus Offaly then in Walsh Park on Sunday, 1:45. As we were mentioning there, like a massive win for Waterford last week versus Limerick, which very much started their season. For Offaly, not quite happened just yet. They were certainly beaten a lot more comprehensively against Tipperary than what happened when they played Kilkenny. So looking at this one, I mean, you'd probably be fancying Waterford to win this fairly comfortably after last week's showings from both teams.
Yeah, I think Waterford will win this game. And look, Offaly, it's a shame on them. They've had a lot of players missing. Obviously, Adam Screeney would have played during the week for UL. I know we'll talk about the Fitzgibbon later, but he was absolutely superb for UL last night. Absolutely brilliant. That he has shown his potential, no doubt about it. Charlie Mitchell's a huge loss for Offaly. I know he's had problems behind the scenes and things like that. I do know that for a fact. And hopefully he does recover from that, because he is an absolutely fantastic player, Charlie, and hopefully he can recover from that. But look, Waterford, the Walsh Park, the form they're in at this present moment in time, the fact they beat Limerick last weekend, the fact that their big players are coming back slowly but surely as well. I think they're underrated in many ways, this Waterford side. So I'm going to edge it to Waterford. Well, not edge it. I think Waterford win this pretty comfortably. I'm going to go for Waterford by 8.
Yeah, faithful podcast here says, even a lad, sorry couldn't make it on, be back on Sunday. Predictions for the weekend: Cork by 1, Limerick by 6, Waterford by 5, Kildare to beat Antrim, Clare to beat Down, and I'm actually going to predict Carlow to beat Wexford. Do you know, I actually agree with you as well. I actually fancy Carlow to win that game as well. And yeah, that is of course Liam White as well. So make sure to check out his podcast as well when people get a chance. And we will see him all on Sunday. Peter says bad day at the office last week for Offaly. They are struggling badly, says Peter here as well. Peter also says, I heard Charlie Mitchell might be in real bother. Best wishes to him. Yeah, I think everyone here at Cúilín Media sends our regards and wishes for Charlie Mitchell to make a speedy recovery in regards to that. Ryan says, can see nothing but a Waterford win. Waterford by 9, says Ryan, whereas Peter says Waterford by 10. Yeah, I think I agree as well. I think it will be a fairly comfortable win for Waterford, in all honesty there. We were mentioning Wexford versus Carlow, and we'll move on to Division 1B. Liam reckons Carlow might get over the line. I reckon Carlow might get over the line as well. But would you be agreeing with the shock, or do you think it will go to plan and Wexford will make it 3 wins from 3?
It's a shame we don't have the team sheets right now, Aaron, because I would give you a prediction that I would be sure about if the Wexford team was released by now. But I don't know, has it been released? Have the main players come back in there? Obviously, the first 2 games against Antrim and against Down, they were very, very lucky to get over the line. And 2 sides, Antrim and Down, I think will struggle in Division 1B as well. So from Wexford point of view, they've won the both games, but very, very unconvincing. And I wouldn't be too positive about the Wexford performances in the first 2 games. But having said that, you look at Wexford's team. Lee Chin wasn't there. Jack O'Connor wasn't there. Plenty of other players. Obviously, Rory Connor's taken the year out, so that's a huge miss for them. It was mostly youngsters. The likes of Simon Roach. Would Simon Roach be a youngster? Well, he'd be a player on the fringes anyway. He was taking the freeze. You've the likes of Jack Redmond and all these players. They're exciting players, but these players haven't played together much before this year. And you have to take that into account as well. You might say just without looking at those teams that was a disgraceful performance from Wexford point of view, but you have to go in deep and look at those facts as well. If they play, look, I'll do an ultimatum. If they play their big players, if they play their big players and play them out on the pitch for the first time this weekend, I think Wexford will win this game. But if they play the same team that they've done over the last 2 weeks, I'm going to say Carlow. Look, it's that kind of thing, but yeah, it's going to be a tight game either way. Carlow are a decent side themselves. Marty Kavanagh, obviously Chris Nolan, like they have some fantastic players, individual quality there as well, and they will give bloody Wexford's nose. There's no doubt about that. But I honestly think for a prediction, Aaron, it depends what team Wexford puts out. Genuinely, that's my onus on that game.
Yeah, like I suppose it's one like it for me. Like there's 2 reasons. I think the first reason is as you said, with Wexford, they've looked very sluggish so far. Like don't get me wrong, they've won 2 games, so they'll absolutely take it. They obviously have been missing players. There's no question in regards to that. But also as well, when you look at Carlow, like they have been building very, very nicely over the last kind of couple of seasons, and like we all remember the draw with Kilkenny in Leinster a couple of years ago. They were obviously unlucky in some ways in the John McDonough in terms of how everything kind of went last year. But with players like Chris Nolan and Marty Kavanagh, like they're very, very dangerous. And I feel like they've been knocking on the door of a big scalp in a while. And look, would this be as big of a scalp maybe as what, as maybe beating a Kilkenny or a Galway? Absolutely not. But you do feel like Carlow have been building a little bit towards a bit of a potential shock.
Yeah, maybe so. And they have been doing well over the last few years with the Joe McDonough Cup, and I thought they were very unlucky last year, obviously, like, losing to Kildare and drawing with a last-minute goal by James Duggan to Laois. That was a real kick in the teeth from Carlow's point of view. And as well as that, they were close enough to promotion last year as well. That there was one stage of the season where they were a win against Dublin, I'm sure, away from being in the top 2, I think it was. Obviously, they lost that game in part, but they were very competitive in that game, in fairness. So yeah, I think Carlow, there's a lot of positivity in fairness, and they have shown it over the last few seasons. But yeah, it honestly depends what team Wexford puts out. If they put out a weak inside, which they've done over the last 2 games, they'll lose this one. But if they put out a strength inside, I think they'll have too much for Carlow ultimately in this game. And they need results to catch up with the likes of Clare and to catch up with the likes of Dublin. If they were to drop points against Carlow, I think that'll be their league season over already. So there might be a bit more of a want from Wexford point of view to get over the line.
Yeah, Ryan says Wexford just about scrapping through the division. Peter says Wexford, the Jekyll and Hyde, and also on live support. Yeah, the poor Wexford are getting quite the slack in the comments here. Peter says gonna go for Carlow rising by 2, and Ryan also says here Carlow footballers and hurlers on the rise. Yeah, it's been a very, very good start for Carlow in both codes. To be fair, good time to be a Carlow supporter for sure. So I'm going with a Carlow win. Matthew is going, you're going with a Wexford win, kind of, until you see the team?
Yeah, exactly.
And we have Kildare versus Antrim then taking place at St. Conleth's Park in Newbridge at 2 p.m. I did see Kildare in the flesh up close versus the Dubs on Saturday night, and like it's like you never want to be too critical of a team. And look, Kildare have made tremendous progress in terms of getting up to getting up to Division 1B, playing in the Leinster Championship and everything else. Look, it's one game and it's a small sample size. It's the first time I've seen the Kildare hurlers up close. But it was one of the most comfortable wins I've probably ever seen from the Dublin hurlers, to be honest. It was so comfortable from start to finish. Never really felt like a contest as well. And to be honest, it felt like maybe Kildare were actually holding themselves in reserve for this game, to be honest with you. That was kind of my thinking in regards to it, because like it's a huge game. You do feel like for either one of these two, if they do want to avoid relegation, and some of us have backed both of these to potentially go down. But if Kildare do have any chance of surviving, and maybe even Antrim as well, you feel like a win here is crucial.
Yeah, it's a crucial game for both sides, and what you were saying there about them probably saving themselves, Kildare, for this game, I think will play to their advantage. I think Kildare will win it. And I think, to be honest, I think Davy will have some qualm about the referee as well by the end of it. Look, I think Antrim are a side that have been struggling over the past year or so. I can't remember the last time they won a competitive game. I know people say they got close to Wexford. There was a nice few touches against Clare. The bottom line is they haven't won a game since, I think, the league last year, competitively. That's a worry. And that's not a good vein of form to go into when you need to win this sort of game to save your season. From a Kildare point of view, yes, the game against Dublin, but they are going into this with a lot of confidence after winning the Joe McDonagh Cup last year, after getting to the final of Division 2 last season. I think Brian Dowling's doing a superb job there as well. A concern for them, obviously, was the over-line to Jack Sheridan in the last game. He got 9 points out of possible 11. That probably needs to be spread out a lot more. And I think it will be in this game. Their home comforts now in Newbridge. I think they'll be used to the pitch as well. I think Kildare will win this by 3.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Antrim narrowly by 1. I think Antrim might just sneak it at the end or something of that nature. It might be one of these games where Kildare probably play the better, have the better chances. Maybe there's an unlucky referee decision along the way as well. Peter was saying, 2 points from play in 70 plus minutes. Yeah, definitely not a great show. But look, at the same time, it is important to mention the progress that Kildare have made it. In fairness, Peter does say Davy Qualter is a huge loss for us. More Davy Fitz shit talk, says Ryan. Yeah, potentially so. Antrim footballers and hurlers are in free for all. Yeah, they're kind of like the opposite really of Carlo there. But yeah, I'm going to go with Antrim narrowly, I think, to come through. But what I would say is I would love to see Kildare do. I certainly will be supporting them this coming Sunday. Then you've got Clare versus Down. I feel like this feels like one of the most, like you could argue a shock in Wexford versus Carlow or anything like that. But yeah, I think we have to back Clare to win this, surely.
Someone's having a problem with the stadium name for Clare. I see that Zimmer Boymet's not on the banner, but yeah. Look,
I'm not taking the blame for that.
But we've had enough of Zimmer Boymet, to be honest. But yeah, Clare should win this game. Look, Down did very well against Wexford last weekend to score 25 points. Pierce up McRickard was brilliant. But let's be honest, Aaron, we could banter Clare all you like in being down in Division 1B, but the reality is they're far better than Down. Clare are All-Ireland contenders. I know a lot of people will say that's bad considering they only finished in the Munster Championship last year, but considering the players that have that they have at their disposal, the likes of the Shane O'Donnells, the Tony Kellys, the Shane Meehan, who has really done well in the league over the past few weeks, and more as well. Obviously, Jack O'Neill, I don't know, will he play any part? He did very well for UL during the week. Mark Rogers, they have exceptional players, and they have much better players than the calibre that Down have. Down or a lower level Joe McDonagh Cup team. They're trying to make strides of their own, but unfortunately, and away from home as well in Zimmer Boymet, it's a step too far. Unfortunately, I think Clare will win this. And I think they could win this, Aaron. It's just going to be a shame because we don't want to see this. But I think Clare could win this by close to 20 points or even over that.
Yeah, it could be. I think if Clare are at full throttle and they're at absolute, maximum speed, not even maximum speed actually, if Clare are probably 80-90% of their usual, of their best levels, they could probably win this by 20 plus. So it just depends probably in regards to what version of Clare we do see this coming week. But to be fair to Down, to give them credit, they were very competitive versus Wexford, so they will at least take that kind of going into this one. But Division 2, we do have Kerry versus London first up here. Can we see, like, Kerry obviously have started the league quite well, to be fair. They got a good draw versus Westmeath. So you probably would fancy the Kingdom to come through this, or do you think maybe London can cause a surprise?
I did say London to get promoted from Division 2, but to be fair, I have liked the look of Kerry in terms of their results so far, and the way they've recovered from an off-season last year, obviously going down to the Christie Ring. Kerry wouldn't have liked that at all, and they'd want to recover from that. I think the form book will tell us that Kerry will win this game, especially being at home, and the fact they have a win and a draw on the board, especially the way they battered Derry in the first round, and then the second round against Westmeath. Quite unlucky not to win that game. Westmeath had a few points at the end to salvage a draw on that one. So I think the performances would tell you all you need to know. I think Kerry will win this. And I think they'll win it by about 5.
Yeah, I think so as well. Yeah, we've got Derry versus Mayo. Look, it's been good progress for Mayo. I think they draw with London, I think, last week. But you'd probably fancy Derry there. But what are you thinking?
Yeah, I would probably go for Derry to win this one, especially if the Slot-Neil boys are available. I think Derry will win this one, and I think they're at a different level to Mayo. Obviously, Derry or Christie Ring, Mayo or Nicky Rackard. I think this class will tell us in the game, and I think Derry will get over the line.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And then we've got Westmeath versus Meath as well. It's been an unusual start really for Westmeath, and it has been mad kind of watching their kind of fall from hurling. Like, I think it's been mentioned numerous times before, and I think even Sean mentioned on Sunday, but when they beat Wexford many years ago, we all expected Westmeath to kick on, and it's just completely gone the opposite way around. But Meath, to be fair, have probably declined a little bit in recent seasons as well, so you probably would still fancy Westmeath to win this. But what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think Westmeath should win this comfortably enough. Look, Meath are in a bad spot themselves. I think Westmeath should get the job done. But in fairness, this has been a downfall for quite a while now for Westmeath. I don't know how they'd get out of this hole. Look, David Williams is a very good player. Killian Doyle is an exceptional player. They have really good players, Westmeath, but they just need to show it on more of a consistent standpoint. And I think this could be the start of good form in many ways. They battled well against Kerry the last day. I think, look, they'll have too much class for Meath this weekend.
Yeah, I think so as well. Back Westmeath to come through it there. We do have the round 3 fixtures, or the Division 3 fixtures in round 3, and it is Armagh versus Roscommon, Fermanagh versus Louth, and also Tyrone versus Wicklow. In terms of any of them games, anything stand out for you?
Yeah, I'll probably go for Tyrone to beat Wicklow. The way they beat Louth in the last round was very, very impressive. It's Fermanagh against Louth, is it, Aaron?
It is, yeah.
Fermanagh Louth. Yeah, I'll go for Fermanagh to win that one. Look, they have classy players and all that. And Armagh Roscommon, I'm going to go for Roscommon. They won the Nicky Rackard last year. Armagh, as Killian said in the last show, are in a bit of a rut in hurling at this present moment of time. They got hammered by Wicklow last weekend. And I think Roscommon will have too much.
Absolutely, yeah. Ryan agrees with you there in terms of a bit biased, but Roscommon by 3, yeah, absolutely. And then in terms of Division 4 then, so we've got Sligo versus Warwickshire, Cavan versus Lancashire, and Monaghan versus Leitrim. Any thoughts on these?
Yeah, I think Sligo and Cavan should win comfortably enough. The game between Leitrim and Monaghan is going to be very interesting. They're 2 evenly matched sides. I'm going to go for Leitrim to edge it.
Yeah, I think so as well. So that wraps up the hurling coverage then, in terms of the inter-county hurling. But we did want to touch on the Sigerson Cup that took place over the last, or the Fitzgibbon Cup, I should say, which took place over the last couple of days. He obviously had a big win for Mary Limerick versus DCU, 31 points to 216. And then you had UL, who got the better of University of Galway as well. And I think everybody's seen some of the clips that went around of Adam Screeney and some of his absolute wonder points that he was scoring. But yeah, your thoughts on both of those two games, and who would you be backing now going into the final?
I did watch the UL game against University of Galway, and they have a lot of individual quality. The one thing from a UL point of view that I think they'll be disappointed in was maybe their shooting, and maybe, I suppose as well, it's hard to say this because obviously they're college students and you have to take that into account as well. But I thought UL were a bit complacent last night, to be honest with you. University of Galway, I think, deserved to win that game. They were a point down after Adam Screeney scores a 17 point for UL, and you were thinking UL are going to drive on here. University of Galway were coming up with the ball, and to be honest, they should have got a free out, but it was given as a free in to UL, and it got pushed in even more, and that pushed the margin out to 2 points. University of Galway needed a goal at the end of the game. They almost got it, but you'd imagine if University of Galway were going up for a point instead, the game could have gone to extra time easily. So I think UL were very, very lucky last night. They do have some fantastic players. The likes of Screeney were absolutely superb. I think Darby Carty from Freeze was good. Jack O'Neill from Clare, really impressed with him. He got 3 points from play. Aidan O'Connor with 2 points as well. Oisin O'Donoghue and Jack Lee, he also got on the score sheet from a UL point of view. Colin Coughlin was playing as well. He's the captain of the team. They have star quality all over the pitch, UL. But University of Galway, Sam O'Farrell of Tipperary really performed well. Darren Neary did as well. Liam Hoare, the goalkeeper from Offaly, I was very impressed with him. His long-range pucking and things like that, I thought he was superb. In fairness, Cullen Killeen around the middle of the park, and Gavin Lee as well. Very impressed with some of the University of Galway players. But ultimately, it is a Limerick derby in the final. Mary I Limerick getting over the line, obviously, after extra time. But worth noting from a Mary I point of view, Adam Hogan of Clare and Shane O'Brien of Limerick weren't starting for Mary I last night for one reason or another. I'm not exactly sure what was the situations there. But to win the game and to score 31 points without the services of those two lads deserves a lot of credit. Shane Walsh, not the Shane Walsh of Galway, the Shane Walsh, who's Tommy Walsh and Grace Walsh's brother, actually, from Kilkenny. He got 13 points in this one for Mary I Limerick. Keane Scully got 6 points. Adam Daly got 4 points. So stand-up performers from the Mary I point of view there. And I'd give Mary I a lot in terms of a chance in the final on Friday week. The finals at 7:35 on Friday the 13th in Croke Park, which should be brilliant for both colleges. And I hope that a lot of buses will go up from Limerick to go to Croke Park, and it'll be just a brilliant day out. And what Seamus was talking about in the last few weeks or so about college competitions and having a college GA week, I think we're getting close to that now with 2 Croke Park games in finals in Sigerson and Fitzgibbon. I think it's absolutely brilliant. They deserve a lot of credit to higher education for getting that organised. But the last 2 finals between Mary I and UL, actually, a weird stat, I actually looked it up last night. Mary I have won both. So they have that advantage. I think they have probably more of an onus on UL to win the finals. I think UL, the thing is, UL have a lot of quality, but they need to prove it on a consistent standpoint that they need to prove it by performing as a team. That's the thing from a UL point of view. Whereas Mary I think, are a close-knit bunch. They're a brilliant group as well. And as well as that, they're a small enough college, Mary I. They are. They're very tight-knit. The players would know each other in terms of like the accommodation would be very, very close around that area of near Duradoyle and Limerick. It'd be very, very close. Whereas UL is a huge college. Absolutely huge. And the players would be kind of spread out wherever they would be. I think that will play an advantage to Mary I going to the final. I think UL, with the quality that they have, surely they win the final. But then again, considering their team chemistry, I wouldn't be shocked if Mary I pull it off.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially after such a convincing win versus DCU as well. Like, it was fairly dominant. In fairness, Peter was saying here, don't forget, lads, Grace Walsh's Lake Regale profile is on tonight. As well, so good timing in regards to mentioning that. First time at Fitzgibbon final in Croker since the 80s, and the Sigerson as well. So yeah, I think that shows the growth of both competitions. Is the Sigerson and Fitzgibbon a double header next Friday then? Is it, or is it separate days?
It's no. The Sigerson is on Wednesday evening and the Fitzgibbon is on Friday. So good week of entertainment.
Interesting. Yeah, that's That's good, to be fair. And Peter was also saying, is Podge Collins the Mary I manager?
It's Jamie Wall. That's the main manager. And Podge Collins is kind of the coach there as well.
There we go. Yeah, we'll definitely be keeping an eye in regards to both of those finals. And there is obviously some Sigerson Cup action on at the moment as well. So we won't go into that in too much detail without any results being done and dusted. But in terms of the Harty Cup, we did have Nina CBS, who beat St. Flannan's College Ennis in the 2026 final a couple of days ago as well. So massive result there for Nina CBS, and you've obviously put some scores and everything else up on your own Instagram as well, so make sure to check that out. But yeah, any thoughts or what were your opinions in regards to that?
Yeah, it was an interesting campaign for Nina CBS in many ways, because it was their second Harty Cup win in 3 seasons, and congratulations all involved. Owen Dowan, I think is how you pronounce your name. I might have butchered that now, but he was a star of the campaign for Nina CBS, so I thought he was absolutely superb in this campaign. He actually ended up as the top scorer with 4 goals and 63 points in the competition, 3 goals and 21 coming from play as well. And just for context as well, the Nina CBS top scorer in their last Harty Cup win in 2024 was none other than Dar McCarthy, the Tipperary brilliant performer in the All-Ireland final last year. And 2 years later, it's this guy, Owen Dowan. So possibly a star for the future. We'll have to see it over the next few weeks or so. Like, he is a very, very talented player in many ways, and you had some brilliant scores in that final as well, the likes of Austin Duff, Joe Dwyer, Patrick Hassett. So really well won from a Nina CBS point of view. From St. Flannan's, Harry Doherty was very good. Darbat Nabara proved to be a very good player, scoring for play as well. So look, they have a lot of potential, and they probably will do well with Clare underage teams in the next few years. But Nina will eye up the All-Ireland now. It is a big achievement to win the All-Ireland if they manage to do so. And I believe those finals, the schools finals, have replaced the club finals on St. Patrick's Day. So I think it's absolutely brilliant in terms of promoting schools, GA, in terms of having the finals up in Croke Park as well, and brilliant for the students themselves. So look, it's a brilliant combination, and congratulations to Nina and all involved there. And just to mention as well, the Ashbourne Cup final, the Camogie college competition, actually is going to take place at the weekend this Sunday between UCC and UCD. The defending champions UL are out of the competition after losing to UCC during the week. Good performers from a UCC point of view. Sophie Pembroke scored 6 points. Niamh McNabola scored 5 points. UCC beat UL 17 points to 112 in the game. Sarah O'Brien was very good with 2 points as well in this game. UL may have not done the 3 in a row in this competition, but there is one player, I think one player off the top of my memory, but there could be more, that is aiming for a 3 in a row in Ashbourne Cups. One of them, the UCC defender Claire Kingston, she won the UL with UL, the Ashbourne Cup in 2 years in a row, in 2024 and 2025. She's now studying in UCC and potentially going to win a 3 in a row in Ashbourne Cup. So nice record to have for Claire there, and hopefully from her point of view that UCC go on and win the final. UCD will be a very tough opponent though. They beat DCU in the semi-final during the week, 111 to 110. Amy Kerry getting 7 points, Emma Moore getting 1-1. To my knowledge, both of them are Dublin players in the Camogie standpoint as well, so I think they'd be exciting players in the future from a Dublin point of view. Sarah Keogh scored 2 points as well. And interesting that Peter mentioned Grace Walsh at the Laker Gale. I don't know what's the situation here, but she was playing for UCD in the semi-final over the week, and she will be playing on Sunday as well. I thought, like, she retired from Kilkenny, so I don't know what course exactly she's doing in UCD, but quite interesting. But she was playing the defensive line, so very interesting to see that as well. But it will be an interesting final. UCD last won the Ashbourne Cup, I think, in 2008, if my notes are correct. I think they did anyway. And UCC last won it in 2003 and looking for their 33rd triumph. So yeah, it's going to be a very interesting final to see. I think UCC might have the edge in this final, but there's going to be new champions, Aaron. It's going to be an exciting final. That final is on Sunday at 4 p.m. in DCU, as far as I know. So a very good game, I'm sure, to watch on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a great time of the year. There's so much happening between the the college competitions, you have the inter-county as well. Like there is so much happening, and it's brilliant to be covering it, to be fair. We'll move on then to the Ladies Football League, and we will discuss first of all Waterford versus Dublin, first of all, taking place on Saturday, 2:45. It's been an unusual start for Dublin, beaten quite comfortably versus Meath, beaten quite comfortably versus Kerry as well. Did watch the game on Monday as well, and it was a very flat performance by Dublin, it must be said. Look, we are missing players, and we are waiting on some players to come back. Like that does obviously have to be mentioned and factor in. But look, the story has to belong to Waterford as well, because after beating Kerry, like they'll absolutely be fancying their chances. And geez, that'd be some going in the space of a week if Waterford can take out both Kerry and Dublin. Like what a weekend that could be for Waterford football.
Not only that, Aaron, in round one, they absolutely hammered Armagh as well. This Waterford team is coming. I predicted them to finish third on the Cúilín Media predictions video. To be fair to Liam, he did predict Waterford to be in the league final. I'm starting to agree with him slowly but surely. This Waterford team is full of stars, and they're starting to realise their potential right now. Chloe Fennell's been brilliant over the last few weeks. I think Breed McMaw was superb against Kerry, scoring 1-4 from play. Obviously, Laura McGregor is a goal threat in this Waterford team as well. So they have some serious players. Karen McGrath in defence as well. They have some absolutely superb players. And Tomas Mackenseer is doing an absolutely superb job there from a Waterford point of view. And I think they'll win this weekend. I think the form is there from a Waterford point of view. I think the confidence is there. The players are performing well. I think they will beat Dublin. And as well as that, with Dublin, from my standpoint, I wouldn't panic too much from a Dublin point of view. Carter Rose still to come back into the team. I don't think Kate Sullivan's played in the first two games either. You have a lot of players to come back into the team. This is what Dublin do across the league over the last few years. Their heavy hitters come in later on in the campaign just to get ready for championship, and they'll do enough to stay up in Division 1, which I think isn't a bad strategy, to be fair, because you're being overlooked in many ways in the championship. But Waterford are the form team at this present moment in time, and especially at home, I think Waterford will win this one. And I think they could win it quite comfortably. They did well against Kerry to win that one by 4 points. They beat Armagh comfortably. I think they could beat Dublin by a similar enough margin this weekend.
Yeah, Ryan says here, could Dubs be going down? Yeah, that's the story of my life at the moment, Ryan, unfortunately. Could be getting relegated from both codes, potentially. So yeah, it's not been a great start really as a Dublin fan in 2026, to be fair, but there we go. Peter does say, think Dubs will have a tough trip to Waterford. Yeah, absolutely. Like, are Waterford All-Ireland contenders, do you think? Like, if they go and beat Dublin, and then they, I know it's the league and everything else, and obviously, look, Dublin haven't had their best players yet, and, like, obviously with Kerry and Armagh, you'd expect them to kind of regroup and come back as well. But, like, if Waterford go and beat Dublin, like, do you think that's a bit of a marker in terms of Waterford, that they could be serious contenders for a crack at an All-Ireland this year?
I wouldn't say it's a marker, because Dublin are playing kind of a weakened side. You have to take that into account as well. The fact that Edie's only the league, and you've seen in teams down through the years. Armagh had an excellent league campaign a few years ago, had an excellent league campaign actually last year, and got knocked out of the championship by Kildare. The league really isn't a clear barometer on where the team is going. I honestly think Aaron Waterford are All-Ireland contenders already, no matter what they do this weekend, or no matter what they do in the league. They have fantastic players. They have a well-thought-out structure. They have a brilliant coach. They have a brilliant backroom team. They have a togetherness. They seem to be happy playing with each other as well. They seem to be enjoying. Like, I've seen the interview Breed McMaud actually did with TG Carr the other day, and the smile on her face, I couldn't get over it. Like, it looks like the players are enjoying their football more than anything, which is a really, really positive from a Waterford point of view. And when you look at the sides there, Galway had a defeat against Cork the other day in the league. They were one of my All-Ireland picks, to be honest with you, at the start of the year. Dublin, Kerry, you don't know about them. Will they go gung-ho this year? Armagh need the Mackens in the team. There's no doubt about that. Cork were a bit off it just yet. I think genuinely this Waterford team look in serious fettle to go on and win the All-Ireland. Look, I don't think it's set in stone that they do it. They had a lot of potential last year. Then Galway kind of whipped them to the side last year. May I add, that was a very good Galway team in the quarterfinals last year and really pushed Dublin all the way. But Waterford might have learned a bit from that quarterfinal too. And I think that will push them potentially to go on an All-Ireland run. I think it's a really successful season for Waterford and a really progressive season will be to reach an All-Ireland semi-final, potentially a final. If Waterford could do that, I think that'd be absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're backing Waterford to win this game. I don't want to back it, but I think, to be fair, with the players that Dublin are missing and how good Waterford have looked, I think it does. I think it will be a defeat, to be honest. But what are you're backing Waterford as well?
Yeah, I think Waterford will win, given the form that they are on at this present moment in time.
And we have Armagh versus Cork as well. Big win for Cork last week, versus Galway. Surprise win, probably in more ways than one, given a lot of people back in Galway to go and win the All-Ireland this year. Armagh have been inconsistent as well. You mentioned their opening weekend defeat as well. So what are we thinking here?
Yeah, Armagh had a confidence-boosting win against Kildare last week as well. And from what I'm hearing, the Mackins were actually back to the team, Amy and Blaheen. And if Armagh could get Amy on the ball, and if she's fit enough, my God, she'll rip any defence apart. She is. And I know a lot of people would argue that Armagh are downgrading a small and things like that. I still hold this, and I will hold it for a long time. Amy Mackin, in my eyes, is the best LGFA player in the country right now. She's what David Clifford is in men's football. I think she's a player that nobody could get near. And especially with the new rules, it'd be very interesting to see if she does play, if she's a fan of the two-pointer. If she is, that's a danger for any defence up and down the country. This Cork team got a bit of a shock win over Galway. Anya Terry-O'Sullivan got 1-2. I think Katie Cork performed well. Abigail Ring has been brilliant over the past few weeks, but in the first 2 weekends from a Cork point of view. I think Grace Neverk, who has been a really good player coming on through the ranks as well, did very well for Niamh Vaughan in the club championship, and now she's moving into centre forward, and it's almost like she isn't a new player. She's been there for quite a few years, but she's done very well this season from a Cork point of view. From what I'm reading, I'll edge it to Cork. I'm going to go Cork by a point, but it's going to be very tight this game. Both sides got confidence boosting wins last weekend. Be very interested to see who wins it this weekend.
Yeah, it's a hard one to call. I probably would edge it to Cork as well, just given how impressive that win was last weekend versus Galway. But especially, as you said, with some of the players that Armagh have back, it definitely does make them a serious threat. In fairness, we do have Galway versus Kildare as well, and we were mentioning, I suppose, both teams really there. In the kind of reverse, I suppose, in terms of losing last week. Look, obviously with the league, you are going to get a bit of inconsistencies and everything else, and maybe Galway losing shouldn't be considered as big of a surprise as we think. But will there be some concern with Galway, do you think, or is this a case of, I suppose, early league defeats, what you see with all kind of the best teams across all codes?
Yeah, it's a very interesting one to call. Kildare got a confidence boosting draw, I would say, to Cork on the first day out, but then to Armagh, losing that game would have been disappointing for them, especially considering they showed in the championship that they could beat that Armagh team last year. And Galway, I think it's interesting to see when the Kilcurran and Clonburg girls will be back into the team. I know Nicola Ward was on holiday from what I was reading. Louise Ward, I don't know what the issue is there. Olivia Tivoli as well. If they could get those players back, I think Galway will be rocking. I think they are a very, very good team, and they showed that last year in terms of their consistent performances and all that. I think home advantage as well. I'll edge to Galway. I think Galway might have enough over this Kildare team. And to be honest with you, Kildare, especially with Cork beating Galway last weekend, it's even more important now from a Kildare point of view that they need to get wins on the board sooner rather than later. But I don't think it'll be this weekend, unfortunately. I think Galway will be too strong.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the home advantage will be absolutely key there from a Galway perspective. Meath versus Kerry as well. As we were mentioning there, Meath looked very impressive, to be fair, versus Dublin. I know they've lost a good few players coming into the league this season, but it was a very impressive victory. Obviously, two teams very familiar with each other as well, it must be said, in recent years. So what are we thinking in regards to this?
Yeah, Meath performed very well last week, and obviously Ciara Smith was very good in the game against Dublin, and maybe proved a lot of doubters wrong in terms of the players that they lost and things like that. Home advantage in Dunshaughlin, I'd edge the Meath. The performance they gave against Dublin, I think, was the confidence booster that they needed. Meath to win this game. Kerry again, like Dublin, just a question mark. Are they taking the league seriously? I know Rachel Dwyer's performed well over the last week, so was Daniel O'Leary, Siofra O'Shea, but they seem to be very, very reliant on those three players in particular, and that might be a concern for Mark Burke and Kerry in the next few weeks or so, but I'm going to go for Meath. I think they might age it. The confidence from last week will mean the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it was a massive result for Meath, and obviously a damning defeat for Kerry versus Waterford. It is a hard one to call. Like, I've got a feeling Kerry might dig it out, to be honest with you, and they might just kind of turn one up for the Bucks away to Meath. So I'm going to go with Kerry ever so slightly, I think, by a point to edge that. Moving on to Division 2, Mayo versus Tipperary. First of all, what are we thinking here?
Yeah, Tip got a bit of a shock last weekend to lose to Cavan at home. So with Mayo hammering Wexford, the confidence they got from that game, Sinead Walsh, no doubt in very good form. I think Mayo will have too much for this Tipperary team at the weekend.
Agreed, yeah. And then we also have Tyrone versus Donegal. Tyrone, obviously one of the favourites for this division. They've been backed by, I think, all of us really in terms of this division. Obviously Donegal rivals and everything else, and two teams that do know each other quite well, to be fair. So will he be back in Tyrone to get it, or do you think Donegal might be able to turn one up for the Bucks here?
I think Tyrone will be much too strong for Donegal. Look, Donegal had a good win last weekend against Monaghan, but at the same time, this is a Donegal team probably on decline over the last few years in terms of retirements, in terms of players stepping away and things like that. Obviously, no fault of their own, but that is a big. There were some big blows over the last 2 years from a Donegal point of view, whereas Tyrone are building a nice squad there together. So I'm going to go Tyrone. I think, to be honest, Aaron, I think it'll be comfortable.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Tyrone have looked very, very strong so far at the start of the league, and I agree with you there. I think they'll be far too strong for Donegal in terms of this one. We do have Cavan versus Wexford as well in Division 2. What's your prediction here?
Yeah, it's I'm gonna go for Cavan. Wexford, they don't seem to be up at the level of Division 2, considering like both these teams were promoted for Division 3 last year, and they produced an exciting league final last year, which Cavan came up on top of. The win against Tipperary last weekend will give Cavan a lot of confidence, and I think they'll beat Wexford this weekend.
Yeah, we've got Monaghan versus Westmeath to finish up Division 2. This should be an interesting one as well, in fairness.
Yeah, and considering the thing is, like, Monaghan or Westmeath scored 6 goals against Tyrone last week and still lost, which was nuts. I've never seen a score like that. They scored 6 goals and 6 points and still lost the game. How lucky can you get? I know Anna Jones was superb in that game, and Sarah Dillon has been very good for Westmeath over the last few seasons. Surely they get a win this weekend. I think they'll beat Monaghan.
Yeah, is that a record maybe for a team to have scored 6 goals and lost? I'm not too sure if that's ever happened before.
It has to be a record, surely. I can't remember a team. It's at senior level anyway, adult level, scoring 6 goals and losing again. I never heard it in my life.
I know there was a game, I think, with the down 20s, I think, with Martin Poland involved, because I remember when I interviewed him, I think they scored something like 5 goals and 4 points or something like that in a game and lost, I think. But yeah, it does feel like certainly a bit of a record there, in fairness. Ryan says Westmeath by 5. Westmeath are a goal machine. Absolutely, they are. Scored 4 goals in the semis last year and still lost. Yeah, I mean, if they could put a few points over the bar, they might be a serious team, in fairness. But look, moving on to Division 3 games, and we'll move a little bit quicker with these ones. But we do have Clare versus Down first of all, and then we also have Limerick versus Laois. So in terms of both of those 2 games, what are we thinking?
I'd say Down will beat Clare, and I'm going to go for Laois to beat Limerick. Laois are en route for promotion, in my opinion.
Yeah, we do also then have Louth versus Fermanagh and Roscommon taking on Antrim as well. 2 big games here. What are we thinking? I
think Fermanagh will beat Louth. Louth have had a good start, but Fermanagh has some very good players, the likes of Brenda Bannon, who have been playing over the last few weeks, and I think they'll be enough for Fermanagh, the individual quality, and I'm going to say Roscommon will beat Antrim.
Yeah, and then the last game of the weekend, a bit of a lonely game, it must be said, in the National Football League, Waterford versus Longford. It was obviously refixed from week one. I actually think Waterford are going to win this game. Like, they looked very good against Leitrim. I didn't see them necessarily now, but like from looking on Score.bio, like they scored 2-8 and they were actually very competitive against one of the teams you would have expected to be battling for promotion. And Longford, on the flip side, looked very like beaten comfortably by London. We both backed that as well. We both predicted that, to be fair. So maybe not a surprise, but it does feel like it's, if there was ever a weekend for Waterford to win a game in Division 4 this weekend, you feel like this is it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to go for Waterford to win this one. I know they've had batterings over the last few years, not over the last few weeks. It's been a long time from a Waterford point of view. But Longford football seems to be at a sticky stage at this present moment in time. Losing to London was a massive blow to them at home. The worst thing about it was we actually predicted London to win the game against Longford. It was almost like we don't have any faith in this Longford team anymore. And it's just, I remember Longford teams that were very, very competitive, and this team is just not competitive anymore. And it's just very unfortunate to see Waterford having home advantage. I think that will push them over the line. Waterford to win this by about 4 points.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And I think Ryan agrees as well. It says Waterford would have surprised Waterford by 4. No more prime Barcelona in Longford. Yeah, I think those days are long gone now. I think for the Longford Army and the Ultras and everything else. But yeah, look, that pretty much wraps it up, I think, in regards to all the weekend's action. Cheers, Matthew, very much for well, not for joining me. I nearly fell into old habits there, but for coming on the for coming on the show and everything else. And we will be back obviously on Sunday with Liam and Seamus, hopefully to join us as well. We'll be reviewing the hurling action, the ladies football action as well. So do stay tuned for that. Hit the like button, subscribe if you could, and we'll speak to you all again soon. Follow your instinct, baby. Follow your instinct.